Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome to Tundra Talk. You see I'm rocking my little Brewers gear here as spring training is about to get started. Very excited for baseball to come around. So today did a full 7-round mock draft for the Packers using what I did the other day, meaning the Aaron Rodgers trade to the Las Vegas Raiders. Packers got pick 38 this year, and then they got a future first round pick. That's the same format that I used in the previous video. If you have not checked out the full first round mock draft, go back, check it out. Make sure you do like and subscribe. That way you get more of these videos. I'm coming at you not from somebody who has got all these inside sources. I am a fan that is literally trying to get in the head of Brian Gutekunst, who's trying to think not necessarily as a fan, but try to think the way the organization thinks. Try to think the way the NFL thinks, and to really give you the best overall unbiased content that I possibly can. So, again, make sure you do like and subscribe. That way you do get notifications when new videos do drop. So going through this one, first pick 15, Peter Skoronski was there. I do think he might end up going higher, but if there are those length issues that do come up with Peter Skoronski, which could very well happen, I could see him sliding down to this point. But this is a guy, he could play tackle, he could play guard. Heck, he was recruited at Northwestern as a center. So that's a player the Packers really do love right there. Is they love these guys that aren't necessarily pigeonholed at one position. They give you a lot of different versatility throughout the course of what they can do. That way they can cross-train and they can really find the best spot to maximize their ability. Peter Skoronski, pick 15. Once I saw he was there, I'm like, I could look at edge or I could look at other things, but that value was just too good for me to pass up. Then we get to pick 38. Pick 38, I took Darnell Washington, tight end from Georgia, 6'7", 265-pounder. Young guy, is a true junior, I believe, coming out. I think he's going to test really well for his size. I mean, he's not going to be a 4'5" guy or anything like that. But I think he's a guy that could run right around that 4'6", 4'6'5" range. And at 6'7", 265, that is pretty athletic. He's already a really good blocker. And looking at it from the Packers' point of view, Mercedes Lewis loves Matt LaFleur's scheme. He would come back for Matt LaFleur, I would think. And having a guy like Darnell Washington, who is the same type of profile, but a very younger version of it, I think that that's a very nice pairing right there to have. So Darnell Washington, tight end from Georgia, at pick 38. So we started off, offensive lineman Peter Skoronski, tight end Darnell Washington. Now we get to pick 45, the Packers' original second-round pick, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He's a player I'm actually really high on. I think that once the combine process goes on, I think he could definitely jump up into the very early part of the second round, potentially even late first round. This is a guy who's got a lot of athletic ability, 6'4", 255, so he's got some nice size to him. When I have watched him, he's definitely a speed rusher. If he can develop some sort of counter off that speed, maybe a spin or a swim under, this is a guy that could really develop into being a dynamic player. But I really wanted to target the edge early in this process just because Rashawn Gary's hurt. We don't know when he's going to be back. And this just gives you that extra little depth there until he does. But then you have Felix Anudike-Uzomah to pair with Rashawn Gary and JJ Enagbare for the long term to give you a nice little trio of edge rusher. Then we get to the third round. Clark Phillips, the third cornerback from Utah. I think this is going to be a little later than he goes, to be honest with you. I think he's going to test really well. I think teams are really going to like him. He's not a day one guy, probably because of his size. You're probably looking at a guy who's more of a prototypical slot type guy. He's about 5'10", a $180 is what he was listed at Utah. But he's a guy, again, you could put in the slot. You have Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander, Clark Phillips, and then you could slide a guy like Rasul Douglas into that free safety robber role. Things, so it gives you a little flexibility as to what you can do. And heck, the more good players you have in the secondary, the better. Then we get to the fourth round. This is where I got Zach Pickens, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. I really like this guy. He underperformed. Some of it was the situation. There's a lot of coaching, turnover, things like that at South Carolina. But he was a highly recruited prospect. He is going to test relatively well. The production's not there, so they'll probably get him to fall into early day 3. But Zach Pickens is a really nice player to put with a Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, and he can really kind of come in and be maybe that 4th defensive lineman to give you a little bit of extra depth that way. Then we get into the 5th round here. Rashad Torrance, the 2nd from Florida, safety. Really like the player again. This is an area of need definitely because right now the Packers have Darnell Savage, Ennis Gaines, and Tariq Carpenter as their safeties. Obviously, if you have Clark Phillips and then you jump Rasul Douglas over to safety, that gives you a little more depth. But you do need to continue to find more players, take some swings at that point. And it's a 5th round pick. If anything, you can get another special teams ace type player. Rashad Torrance from Florida is at 151 in the 5th round. Then we get to 171. I have Kenny McIntosh, the running back from Georgia. The Packers very well. It is feasible to think that the Packers running backs going into 2024 could be Tyler Goodson. Yeah, that's it. Aaron Jones could be a cut candidate after this year. He just reworked his contract, but to stick around this year. But he could get cut. A.J. Dillon's a free agent after this year. So you definitely want to get a guy in here a year before he is needed. And Kenny McIntosh from Georgia, winning program, obviously. He's had some nice production. So this could be a nice player that you can find in the 5th round that could eventually turn into a really nice piece in the running back core going forward. Now we get to the 7th round. I didn't make any trades in the draft here. I probably could have, but I didn't really feel like doing that. I wanted to just kind of let the process play out because the Packers do have a lot of holes. And here, we definitely hit some interesting spots. So I got Tyson Bagent, the quarterback from Shepherd here. He's a Division II guy. Went to the Senior Bowl. The tools are there. He's got the arm. He's got some athleticism. But he's just raw. And at this point, at pick 234 in the 7th round, this is a player that you definitely need to take a quarterback at some point in this draft because you traded Rodgers. You do have Jordan Love. You do have Danny Etling. But that's it. So you want to add just a little more competition to that room and add in a young player like a Badgett that you could probably get onto the practice squad, and then bringing in a veteran quarterback for camp is a good way to go. Alex Forsyth, the center from Oregon, is the next pick. Packers going back to that Oregon well. They did well with Jake Hansen in the 6th round, turned into a really nice depth piece on the offensive line. Alex Forsyth, again, you do have, Jake Hansen is a free agent. Josh Myers is there. Zach Tom has some flexibility, but here you get more of a true center here, a guy that you can bring in and maybe give Josh Myers a push, but at least then you're looking at, okay, we have another guy that could come in and play center. Jaden Hazelwood, wide receiver from Arkansas at pick 244. Bigger guy, 6'3". Again, you're the 7th round. You're just kind of taking guys who might have that size profile, that athletic profile that just kind of fell down the board. And right here, he fits the Packers mold at that 6'3". Gets you that bigger guy right there, could play on the outside, inside. Then this is where it gets interesting. I went back-to-back North Dakota State here. Hunter Luepke, North Dakota State fullback. This is an interesting pick because you do have Josiah DeGuara. You did draft Darnell Washington. In this case, you might bring back Mercedes Lewis. You might not. But if you don't, especially, you have Darnell Washington, Josiah DeGuara. Well, Hunter Luepke hits that H-back fullback role right there really well. And then I got Noah Gindorf, the tight end from North Dakota State as well. This guy is 6'6", 265. He is a run blocker. That's what they do at North Dakota State. So he would be another guy that you could bring in, especially if you don't bring back a Mercedes Lewis. You get that tight end that can really do a lot of good things blocking-wise. If anything, Luepke and Gindorf, they could definitely help you out on special teams. So there's my 7th round mock. To break it down again, at 15, I took Peter Skoronski. Pick 38, Darnell Washington, tight end from Georgia. Pick 45, Felix Anudike Uzama, edge rusher from Kansas State. At 78, Clark Phillips III, cornerback from Utah. At pick 116, Zach Pickens, the interior defensive lineman from South Carolina. Pick 151, Rashad Torrance II, safety from Florida. At pick 171 in the 5th round, Kenny McIntosh, the running back from Georgia. And then we get to our 5 7th round picks. You have Tyson Bagent at 234, quarterback from Shepherd. Alex Forsyth, the center from Oregon, at pick 237. At pick 244, I got Jaden Hazelwood, wide receiver from Arkansas. And then at 256, fullback Hunter Lupke from North Dakota State. And at 259, Noah Gindorf, tight end from North Dakota State as well. Looking back at it, Packers definitely hit a lot of areas of need. You got a little depth on the offensive line. They always draft a couple of guys every year. Peter Skoronski, Forsyth right there. You added a couple of tight ends there in a position of need. You did get another wide receiver. I do expect that they'll probably keep the 4 guys that they have, obviously with Melton, Toure, Watson, Dobbs. You know, you bring in Hazelwood and maybe another veteran guy. You know, bring in an edge rusher and some secondary help right there and some interior defensive line help as well. So as always, again, make sure you do like and subscribe. That way you do get notifications when new videos drop. I'm going to keep coming at you with some of this content. I'm working on my top 5 Packers at each position. I am kind of going to ignore the quarterback position. I'm not going to lie. Because they're not going to take any one of these top-rated quarterbacks early. I can't imagine that they would. But I am working on my top 5 Packer draft prospects at each position. So again, as always, thank you so much for listening. Go Pack Go, and we'll talk again very soon.